Hello everyone, this is Andy from the Pixel Pub, and I'm here with my top 10 Final Fantasy games. Okay, we got one ground rule from the start here. I'm not just choosing numbered Final Fantasy games. I'm gonna have some different stuff in there. Not a lot, spoilers. It's mostly numbered stuff, but I'm just putting that out there right here. I'm putting it out here right now that it's going to be some different stuff in there. Starting at number 10, that's where it all started. It's the original Final Fantasy on the NES. As you can see, I have the box here, and it's got all the stuff in it. Like a walkthrough and everything. So yeah, this is the first Final Fantasy game. This is where it all started. The reason why it's so low for me, I guess, is that I didn't get into it until 1997-ish, when I played my first Final Fantasy game, and I had to go back and see what the other ones went about. And I played this one on an emulator, and it's kind of tough to go back to unless you really have to put yourself in that mindset of this is a very old game, and they made some choices. One of those being that if your entire party targets one enemy in this turn-based battle system, and that enemy dies before they all did their turn, then they'll just hit air over and over again until all their turns are exhausted. And that's kind of lame. You just kind of have to put that in the back of your head that that's going to happen. But other than that, I think for Forest Age, I think it's still pretty damn good. It's been remade and remastered a bunch of times. There was the Final Fantasy Origins on the PlayStation. There was Dawn of Souls on the Game Boy Advance. There was even that weird Team Ninja game that was a Dark Souls clone last year with the guy with chaos and everything.
Chaos.
But yeah, that's where it starts, and it's number 10. Okay, this is where the controversy is going to start, I think. Number 9 is Final Fantasy VI. I have the two versions I have here, which is Final Fantasy 3. The version we got in America, and I got Final Fantasy 6 on the Game Boy Advance. And I know this is a lot of people's favorite Final Fantasy game. It is not mine, clearly. My biggest problem with this game, and it has a lot of good things going for it. It's the reason why it's on this list, because there's a billion Final Fantasy games. But my biggest problem with it is at the halfway point in the game, when you think everything's over, and you have to keep going, you just have to know where to go. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I feel like people who really like this game and who will defend it to the death is they played it when they were like 11 or 12, and they played it over like summer vacation, and they had nothing better to do, and they could just go to every town and every single thing and talk to every single person and figure things out that way. When I originally played this game, I had a job. I had stuff to do, and I didn't have the patience for it. I've only ever beat it once, and that was, I think I just used a guide, and I just brute forced my way through it. But yeah, if this is your jam, this is your jam. But for me, it just, that little bit alone just really turned it off for me. But the good thing about it, though, I'm not going to shit all over it. It probably has one of the best casts of any Final Fantasy game, like this ensemble cast that you really can't pinpoint a major main character. Like, it's probably Terra, but maybe. Is it Locke? Is it Celes? There's a bunch of really good characters with intertwining stories, and it's a lot of fun, and it's got the opera scene. Everyone loves the opera scene. It's got the big 17-minute long final battle song that Dancing Mad, where you fight Kefka, and Kefka's one of the best Final Fantasy villains. He does the thing he wants to do. He destroys the world. But he fucking does it, man. But yeah, as far as like playing the game though, that's why it's number 9. Okay, number 8. It's another Game Boy Advance game. That's Final Fantasy V. I was actually lucky enough to start working at Target when they were clearancing out all the Game Boy Advance games, and that's how I got Final Fantasy 5 and 6 for like stupid cheap. at the time. I really like this game. The reason why it's not higher up is because I played it when I was in my early 20s. It's playing Super Nintendo games on the Game Boy Advance, or I was playing on the DS at the time. Just wasn't ideal, I guess, and it just kind of washed over me. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I like the job system. I like all the different combinations of the jobs you can have, and it's a whole lot of fun. The story's kind of, I don't remember it at all, really. But that was the thing with Final Fantasy V that people really liked, was the job system, not so much the story, as far as I know. But yeah, it's a solid Final Fantasy game. That's why it's number 8. Okay, number 7 on this list is the first and only non-numbered Final Fantasy game. And I just noticed I have a crack on my case. But anyway, it is Final Fantasy Tactics. I got this game not really knowing what to think. I just played Final Fantasy VII, was in Final Fantasy VII Fever, and I wanted more Final Fantasy. And I thought it would be more like a traditional Final Fantasy where you're walking around and you're exploring and you're going to towns, going to caves, fighting and all that stuff. But it's nothing like that. This game is all battles. And it is the first Tactics game I've ever played. It's kind of the only one I've ever liked. I tried the Daisukeas, whatever. I tried those. I don't think any other tactical game or strategy game in the world, it's not their fault that I don't like it. It's my brain. It just doesn't want to do the things that the game wants me to do. But this was the first one I played, and this was my first introduction to the job system, and it really kind of blew my mind at the time. Just all the different fun little art for all the characters and all their different abilities and stuff like that. And I always had my favorites. I will pick a monk / geomancer all day long. That's just my favorite. And I like being able to punch people real hard. And I like not having to use MP. That's great. And this soundtrack for this game by Hitoshi Sakamoto is one of the fucking best things I've ever heard in my life. The era of the PlayStation putting out baller ass soundtracks was, man, they all rule. It's just great stuff. But yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics still holds a special place in my heart because it was my first Tactics game and kind of the only one I like, actually. So yeah. Number 6 is Final Fantasy 4. I know it says 2 here, but if you're watching this video, you know why. But yes, I really enjoyed this game. I first played it probably on emulator back in the day, but they did release the Final Fantasy Chronicles on the PlayStation that came with Final Fantasy 4 and Chrono Trigger. And I wanted to play both of those games, and that was the first time I really gave a deep dive into 4. And man, it just kind of, it mixes in. They had the job class system created in 3, or really fleshed out more in 3, and then they took it and applied those jobs to characters with a story that was, it had to be crazy mind-blowing at the time and in the early Super Nintendo era. But even when I played it in the late 90s, I still really enjoyed it. And I know on the Super Nintendo, for the US version, they really dumbed it down for us dumb Americans, which I really appreciate because I like to beat games. I like to see the end of them. I don't want to bang my head against shit. And this it worked for me. Yeah. Cecil for life. Woo. Okay, number 5. Might be a little bit of a controversial pick. We'll see. But it is Final Fantasy VIII. I was super hyped from Final Fantasy VII. I had to play the next one, obviously. I remember this came out on 9/9/99, the same day as the Dreamcast. And I convinced my mom to pre-order it for me, just so I knew I could have it, because she was going to give it to me for Christmas. And it would be a thing where I knew I was going to get it for Christmas, but I just had to wait till Christmas. And I remember going to KB Toys with my dad on 9/9/99 And getting there to pick it up, and the man behind the cash register, as nice as he was, he asked my dad if, since we had pre-ordered it, we get to, if you paid like an extra $5 or something, you get the strategy guide as well. And my dad was not much for spending money. I thought he would say no. He said yes, and we got the strategy guide in the game. Came home, and I remember sitting on the couch in my living room, my dad and mom sitting in their respective chairs, and I just randomly asked them, can I just have this right now? And they both looked at each other and just shrugged, like, yeah, we don't care. So that, yeah, I got it the day it came out, and it was great, and it's a weird freaking Final Fantasy game. Anybody who's played it knows that the magic system's all kinds of crazy, and the junction system's all kind of crazy, and you got Guardian forces that kind of operate weirdly too. There's a compatibility rating between them and your. It's weird, but all that weirdness really adds up to me to be a really cool thing. I think it has a incredible soundtrack, which, I mean, I'm going to say that about all of these really, but a lot of these songs really stuck out to me, and something about it has a charm to it that I don't feel like the rest of the games have. It's kind of hard to describe. Like, if you look at some of the environments in Final Fantasy VIII, they look so much different from like some of the rest of the games. Like the gardens that you can go to, the capital G gardens, and like that first town, like with everything looks like all the houses like they're built out of white plastic, and you could drive a car. Like it's so. And that's way before Final Fantasy 15. It really, I don't know, it struck a chord with me. I know in my friend group at the time it was very controversial. People didn't like it. And I think nowadays it's kind of getting this, it's getting a little bit back there. People are more receptive. But yeah, Final Fantasy 8, number 5. Okay, number 4 is Final Fantasy X, the first Final Fantasy game on the PlayStation 2, which advertises real-time facial expressions, complete 3D environments, and a newly designed battle system, which is true. It did have a newly designed battle system. This is the first Final Fantasy game, or numbered Final Fantasy game, I suppose, that did away with the active time battle system they had since 4? Sure, let's say that. It went back to purely turn-based. It has one of the most sleek, like slimmed-down battle systems I played at the time. I really enjoyed it, just how snappy everything. I can't snap. But how snappy everything was, and it, man, the battle system rules in this game. I fucking love it. That's really why it's so high up, because I really like playing the battles. And at the time, the graphics blew me away. The music was great. It has that stupid fucking laughing scene that everyone fucking references. And it has some weird characters. The story's weird. Story's weird, man. You fight your dad, and he's a big monster, and it's weird. It's weird, but it's up here for the battle system, and the battle system is incredible. I kind of wish they'd make something similar to it. I think the closest I could think of to it right now is something like a Bravely Default, where they just kind of don't care. Like, they don't want to waste your time. Like, I don't know. It's super cool. It's one of the few Final Fantasy games where I can beat the final boss in like 4 or 5 turns. I don't know. Just get the little bug sisters. I forget their names. The Delta Attack. Oh. All right, number 3 is a big one. That's Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 7 is number 1 in my heart. But if I'm looking at it objectively, this game got some problems. But I still think it's really cool. I played through it a billion times. I'm really loving what they're doing with the remake on the PS4, PS5. Can't wait for that Rebirth to come out next year. But yeah, this is my first Final Fantasy. I was one of those people who saw commercials for it on TV and was suckered in. Like, look at all this crazy graphics you're going to see. But no, those are cutscenes. What you're actually doing is you're playing a game where you just look at numbers and pick actions from a menu. And I was like, what? this isn't Mega Man. Like, what? But through sheer determination, I figured it out, and I played it. And here's a personal story about me and Final Fantasy VII. When I got my PlayStation, which was in 1997, I did not get a memory card. And here's why. I had an N64 prior to that, and I got a memory card, and it, like 3 games used it. 2 games, like none of the games used the damn memory card. So I was like, well, I ain't getting fooled in that shit again. Like almost every game on the PlayStation used a memory card unless you were using passwords. And if you're an RPG, you're using the memory card because you had to save your goddamn game. So I didn't have a memory card for the longest time, and I was 13. I didn't have a job. I couldn't just go out and buy a memory card. So I would play the opening to this game. I've probably seen it thousands of times, just messing around like, oh, I want to play something. Let me play Final Fantasy VII for 2 hours and not really make any progress. So eventually I did get a memory card. It was a third-party memory card. It was a Nyko memory card. Does anyone remember those? NYKO. It was blue. And it worked for every game except Final Fantasy VII. For whatever reason, if I tried to save, it would say my memory card was corrupted and it would delete my entire memory card. So I didn't really save with that memory card so much. So I'd gotten my PlayStation for Christmas in 1997. Come summer break, 98, I decide I'm going to beat Final Fantasy VII. I am going to play it all day. So I did. And I got fairly far into it. I don't remember how far I got before I gave up. But I will tell you this. For anyone who's played Final Fantasy VII and played it a lot, you know that there is a scene right after you leave Midgard when you get to a little town called Kalm, where Cloud is telling his backstory to the rest of his companions. And halfway through that backstory, it flashes forward back to the present. They'd ask you, say, Cloud's like, hey man, this is a long story. Y'all want to take a rest? And then it asks you if you could save, if you want to save. And wouldn't you know it, that memory card, that save didn't corrupt anything. That save went through. The rest of them, where you actually had to save at a save point, didn't go through. But the one where you didn't have to save at a save point did. And it was bizarre. I don't know why, but I eventually got a real memory card, played through it, loved it. What can be said about Final Fantasy VII? Just a fucking fantastic soundtrack. Groundbreaking at the time. Highly flawed. That's why it's not on number 1 on this list. Like, go back and try to tell me what happens in Final Fantasy VII. You can't. It's nonsense. There's the translation errors all over the place, and that guy are sick and all this other. It's bizarre, but still incredible. I'd say still give it a try on the modern systems, because some of that stuff can be alleviated with like the PS4 and Switch versions. They have the stuff where you can turn off random battles, you can speed everything up, you can make yourself God mode if you just want to get past certain things. It's definitely worth checking out. Head to the Gold Saucer, snowboard some, rescue a Moogle, or what, they had a treehouse or something. I don't know. Final Fantasy VII, number 3. All right, number 2 is Final Fantasy 12. Now, this is outside of Final Fantasy 11 being the MMO. This is probably the first Final Fantasy game where they said, fuck it, we're going to do something really different. This is not turn-based in any way. It is not a traditional RPG in that way in any way. It turns everything up on its head, and I loved it at the time. I fucking ate it up. This game came out when I was unemployed. I did not have a job, and I would wake up. I would probably watch Lord of the Rings on DVD, and then I'd put in Final Fantasy 12, and I'd play it entire day. It's fucking ruled. It has an incredible soundtrack. And Toshi Sakamoto coming back again, fucking saving the day. and the battle system just, I don't know, it really captured my imagination, I guess. They have what is called the Gambit system in this game, where you basically build all your characters are little like logic robots. You make little if-then statements with all your characters, like, hey, my healer, your top priority is that if any character falls less than 30% health, you're going to cast heal. You can make I think up to 12 different gambits for each character, maybe 16. It was a lot, and man, I just loved it. I tried to play through the recent Zodiac edition on Switch, the HD version. Got about halfway through, and a big ass bomb kept killing me, and I couldn't figure out how to beat him, and I kind of put it down. But when I played it originally on the PS2, I fucking ate this up. It was my favorite game for a very long time, and that's why it's number 2 on my list. Okay, number 1. Here we go. It is Final Fantasy IX. Yep, I got all the PlayStation ones up here, baby. Yeah, what can be said about Final Fantasy IX? I think Final Fantasy IX is Square Soft, before Square Enix. They are getting the Final Fantasy formula right on. They perfected it. This is it. They nailed it. That's when they start making changes in 10 and 12 and stuff like that, and 13. Fuck that game. And man, it's so good. I remember when I got this game, I had a job at this point, but I still didn't have a lot of money. And it was right, I think it was right when they had started really reducing prices on PlayStation games, and I thought this game was like $50 or whatever, but it was like $39.99 at the local Kmart. I was like, man, I think I have that amount of money, but maybe not for the tax. And I remember running to my car and digging for change just so I can afford Final Fantasy IX. And I did it. I got it. This is the one you're looking at right now that I bought back then, 2000, I think. Yes. But yeah, I love the battle system in the game. I know it's kind of a carbon copy of Final Fantasy VI, but I think I like it a lot better just with the stuff you can do with the combination weapons, where you can like take weapons that you're not using and take it to a fusion shop or whatever and fuse it together and make a better weapon. Learning all of the abilities, which is stuff you can do in 6 as well. The cast of characters is fun. Up until you let's just forget the giant frog chef and the guy with the red hair. That guy, fuck him. Let's forget about those. In the Rat River Dance lady, let's forget about those. Let's just focus on the 4. Zidane, Vivi, Garnet, and Steiner. They're great. They could have just made the game with them. It's awesome. And the music's great. It has a fun sense of humor. I have probably played through this game more than any other Final Fantasy game. So because I love it, and B, because another personal story is I basically kept buying third-party memory cards on the PlayStation throughout this entire life cycle. Actually, on the PlayStation 2 as well. I'm looking at it right now. Third-party memory cards sticking out of that butt, baby boy. But for whatever reason, in Final Fantasy IX, everything would save just fine up until the last battle, or right before the last battle. If you're a Final Fantasy IX super fan, you know that save point looks different from all the rest. It's like a little purplish orb or whatever. It wouldn't save there. It would corrupt. And it sucked. I could never see the fucking final battle of this game for years. So I went off to college, somehow scrounged the money up to buy a different memory card, play through it again, and see it. And it's great. And the final boss comes out of nowhere. It's some necro guy. No one ever heard of him. But I don't think there's any downtime in this game. Like, there's not moments in this game that I'm like, man, I fucking don't want to do this. Like, the stuff in Final Fantasy VIII when you're in the prison, the desert prison, I fucking hate that. There's quite a few bits in 7 that I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. None of that in 9. the Chocobo minigame that they come up with, the Chocobo Hot and Cold, where you're digging up stuff to upgrade your Chocobo. I fucking love that. That music stuck in my head for forever because I played that a billion times. But yes, this is my favorite Final Fantasy. I was about to say by a long shot, but no, it's not by a long shot. All of these are kind of condensed. Like, none of them are super far and away better than the rest. But I had to. It was a really hard list to make, is what I'm saying, and I probably could easily make a top 10 worst Final Fantasy games because there's some stinkers that I could talk about. But for my money, 9 is the best. Right here. Okay, that's it for my top 10 Final Fantasy games. I would love to see some comments, see what you think. I know this list can be controversial. People love their Final Fantasies, and so do I. That's why I made this list. And yeah, just leave a comment. Let me know. This is Andy from the Pixel Pub, and I'm signing off. Peace out.